Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Um, where do I begin? This subject is one that has far-reaching effects. It's gonna go on and on and on and on. That's because this war with China is going to end. For some, it's going to be great. For others, it's going to be terrible. The subject is Social Security. When Social Security was created, I use the word, it was for the poor people who had always suffered in America. But during the war, if those people rebelled, America was in danger. And FDR offered the rich people, the bankers, the people who created 1913. Well, it didn't start in 1913, but I hope you guys know about what happened in 1930. Anyway, it was supposed to be for people who worked but still found themselves at age 50, 60 with nothing, dying of starvation in a country that was becoming the world leader. Besides Social Security, there are other programs that were created for poor people. The ones who were too ill to work, the ones who were working but too poor, the ones who were too young to retire, or, incidents like that. But over time, all these people were put on Social Security, some form of Social Security. The next step, or one of the steps that happened, let's say in 1980, 81 really, Ronald Reagan came into office. After Ronald Reagan came into office, he was put in office by the same people who you see fighting the wars today, the same gang that runs Trump. And the Social Security Trust Fund was sitting there, $1 trillion reserved for these people who were in poverty in America. Funny thing is, though, that very few black people can get it. And if they did get it, black women especially, they couldn't have their husbands living in the house, while Caucasian women can. And you're going to see this happening. It's coming. Don't worry. History always repeats itself, especially Caucasian history, because they do things when their leaders convince them that black people are going to suffer. And not them, but later on, they complain because they're the ones who are suffering, and black people are sitting back and say, "We told you." Anyway, Reagan took Social Security. Well, it had begun already. They started taking a little bit here, a little bit there. And in this place, they put an IOU, a government bond that's supposed to, you know, every month, well, every year at the time, come out and they would put some money in Social Security that they took out. But after a while, the wars got to be so expensive because the military industrial complex saw, I mean, they used to have, I think it was 32 different military, people who produced weapons for the US. That's inside the US only, but they have them in Europe too, another set. And then Asia and Japan and Korea. Anyway, these bankers who were running things in America, well, they run it throughout the world anyway. But these bankers saw it, so, hey, this is going good for us. So they got Reagan to say, you know what? We'll just use the trust fund, put the money in the general fund, and every month that we gotta pay these people, we'll pretend like we are paying off this loan. But it never got paid off. And today, people are looking at that money going into the trust fund as though it is money that is the government, right, is putting in to Social Security. They're giving people something. The funny thing is, Caucasians believe it. They don't look at it and say, well, every month my money comes out of my paycheck for this insurance policy. And that's what it is. They're not saying this. They're all talking, pushing out their chests and saying this government handouts. Huh? They're all talking about this government handout. How Social Security is a government handout. And it's not. If you're wealthy enough to buy an insurance policy for your retirement that's going to pay you $5,000, $10,000 a month till you die, that is not an insurance company handout. You pay for that. But the funny thing is, Caucasians in America believe it now. And they are now talking about how government handouts Social Security. Their own money now. Anyway, the banks wanted to get their hand on the funds. Instead of the government putting IOUs in it and taking the money and giving that money to the MIC to build bombs, because now bombs going from making from $200 a piece to $2 million a piece. MIC is making a killing. And the banker says, hey, Social Security is shoot, the government is giving away money. Why don't we take it over? And that's what you see happening now. At least the way I see it. Every time I see it all over the world. Governments borrow money, and then somebody steps in and says, hey, why don't you give us this instead of the money that you borrowed from us? Look at Argentina. Barbados has got the same problem. Barbados has sold off everything that the people used to own, that were owned in the name of the Barbados people. Everything. It's still got the name Barbados written on it, but it's owned by some foreign entity. Including the bank. There used to be a bank here called Barbados National Bank. There is one called the Central Bank. But the Barbados National Bank is now not even owned by the Barbados government. It started out as the post office where people deposit money in when I was a child. For when they become elderly, they'll have some money. Now it's owned by a foreign entity. The majority of the land across Barbados is owned by foreign entities. When I left Gambia to come to Barbados, the Gambian government was trying to fix up the grid, electric grid, the water system, and the other entities owned by the government. And I started laughing. I even discussed it with some people I knew. I said, oh, look, you realize that the government here is about to sell all the utilities. The immigration system in the Gambia is not run by the government. They make the paperwork, collect the money, but it's run by an entity in Sweden. Like most other things. This is a normal standard in Africa. This is a standard across Africa. So it's not in Gambia, it's everywhere in the world. But back to our Social Security system. I'm just trying to show you the similarities of what's going on with Social Security. Trump comes in and say, we're going to do this, this, and this. And Social Security is it's corrupt. People who are this old that are on Social Security. But as I said, in my opinion, they're preparing for something else. The other thing is that people are looking at this thing with AI and say it's a danger to humankind. But AI, the people who are creating AI think that it's not a danger. But if you can see, AI is being kind of intertwined into the daily lives of everything. From crop growing to house building. And I made a joke about the other day about Chinese making missiles in the factory. I didn't say missiles, but I talked about a factory. But from what I heard, this is exactly the missile factory. 3 employees. And one of the 3 is watching the dog, who's the security. But Social Security. The bankers successfully put in place something called a 401k and convinced everybody that if they come into a 401k, they will be safe. They wouldn't have to have Social Security when they are old. And the young Caucasians believe that foolishness, which is 3 generations before them. Their grandfather worked on getting rid of, they wrote all kinds of plans for getting rid of factories out of America, not realizing that their children were the ones who were going to be employed in those factories that if they stayed in America. Now nothing is produced in America, and their children, especially their male children, they woeing, saying woe unto us, what's happened to our male children in school. And that's something that's happened all the time in America. And in every supposedly great nation, powerful nation that's on earth, it happens like clockwork. But anyway, AI is going to take over everything eventually. At the speed where it's going, I would say about 7 years. That's how these things go. Cycle. The cycle, the level which is attained already. Every 7 years, it like doubles. So actually, when you look at the 7 year period, it's like 3.5 years. Today it's 7 years. The next year is 3.5. The next year is 1. If you get my math, you should see it. Because computers, if you look at Moore's law, it's just like the same thing. It's just like Moore's law. Double, speed doubles. So this 7 years, the next 7 years when it doubles, actually 3.5 years. So 10 years, which is in 2024 would put it at 2034. So around 2034, we should have what they call a black swan. When AI takes over, it's doing like 70 to 80% of what needs to be done on Earth, from farming to creating missiles. The AI combined with the robot is going to be the maid or the sex worker, the doctor, the lawyer, the house builder. When almost everything is taken over by AI, and people, there are only going to be so many people needed in spaces where AI have not yet reached. So now, where will all these people go? How are they going to feed themselves? There has to be a system in place to take care of those people. Otherwise, countries are going to have to send out their armies to kill their own people. Hence, Social Security. And if it's supposedly a capitalist tool, it's be run by private entities. You will be getting just what you need to feed you. Not more, not less. Just the minimum amount to keep you healthy. If they want you healthy. That's what Social Security is going to be doing. I may not be correct. You will be the judge. Already there are experiments. I saw one being written about here in Germany, where they gave people money, what they thought was a living wage, just to see how it works and if it's something they can implement. They've been doing that in America for the last 15 years, but not on a wide scale. You'll see one news in the paper says, "Hey, such and such a city is got this foolish thing that they call it they put 50 people on it, 100 people on it, and it turns out to be working pretty well. These people are giving it high praises for helping them to come out of poverty." And then somebody somewhere say, "Hey, we can't be giving government funds to these people too. It's for this foolishness." This is America now. It's gone. Social Security is going to be for everyone because everyone is going to be poor. And when I say everyone, I'm talking about the 90% of people who will not. If the rich people don't have a guardian, an AI guardian, then you will be one of them. Or you might be the one watching the AI to make sure the AI doesn't fail so you can shut it off. Because they're going to claim that you can shut it off. If the AI don't figure it out that, hey, if I do this, then nobody can shut me down, it's over with. But there will be a few people who was going to have the position of watching the AI to make sure the AI doesn't go off course. Not only just one AI, but all the AIs. And a few people watching all the people to make sure the people, are following the plan. Nobody's walking around saying, "Hey, this is not good for us. We gotta overthrow the system and rebuild it." So there will be a few people doing that job. The problem in America is that always outside that system is black people. You can go back as far as history. Black people fought in the Revolutionary War. They still ended up in slavery. The Civil War, the war against the British in 1812, still slavery. 1865, as soon as the war was over, the attacks on black people began. By 1940s, all the land and everything that black people had gained, gone. Today, they started saying, "Hey, we got to recognize these heroes, these black people who work for the country, who gave their lives to build America." Guess what Trump came along? Nope, can't happen. We got to take that back. This was just can't happen. Because when white people are down, when Caucasian, not white people, because people are far from white. When Caucasians are down, they need that black to point at it and says, "You know what? As long as we're above them, we're good." So now you gotta leave. You're either in Africa, South America, somewhere where there are black people, where people of skin color, black like yours, who recognize you as being African roots. What's left in America, outside the wall cities, are black people who are doing what they normally do in the ghettos, preying on each other for survival. And that's when things get interesting. Because all the people who were saying, I'm not leaving till I get my reparation. You got two choices. Either you stay in those Warsaw ghettos, prey on one another, or you leave. Things might not go the way that I'm saying, but if it gets as bad as I estimate it will be, and all powers don't fall in the same, when they fall, sometimes the people at the bottom rise up to become the top because they are prepared. The people at the top are not prepared to fall from the position they're in, and therefore they don't survive. French Revolution. Remember that one? Social Security. I'm hoping that a lot of black people are sitting back and watching what's happened to Caucasians now and said, you see, we told you. But they are not prepared for what's going to happen. They just living the life that they've always lived, thinking it can't get worse than us. It can't get worse than where we at. And though I hope it doesn't get that bad, it still appears to be going in that direction. Hope you're enjoying the day wherever you are. Peace. But prepare.